this is honestly a brilliant question, because so many people have the same question and struggle with the concept of like, hang on, like what the fuck is spirituality? And if you were to come to me even like 2 years ago and just merely mention the word spirituality, I would have been like, you're fucking whack. You're crazy.
Yeah.
You're quack.
Yeah.
Like there's no way I'm listening to any of your woo-woo shit. Like I just wouldn't. But then I decided to start looking into it. But my gateway into spirituality was through science. So what happened was, this is a very common phenomenon with all like scientists on the frontier. You look at Einstein, you look at Nikola Tesla, you look at Newton, all these guys, like, because their intellect is so great, they have such an amazing level of brain power, right? They've got such a high level of brain capacity that they follow. Basically, all science is asking questions, right? Of why are we here, and how does the universe work? Because then that gives us meaning and understanding, and we can then create when we understand the foundational laws of the universe. Because it's pointless to try and create anything with limited understanding. So the greater understanding and awareness we achieve of ourselves and the universe in which we live and the earth in which we reside, we can then basically use those laws to create the reality that we choose, and we can understand it much better. So what these guys do, when they continue to get into the most advanced realms of physics and chemistry, biology, and all these different phenomenon and sciences, you hit a point where you can either accept the reality that we live in a limited reality, and that we've discovered everything that there is to know, and that the physical like laws are absolute truth, which is what the current scientific understanding like in the world is. We only believe in like classical physics. However, you can also take another path, which is to know that we don't have all the answers, and that the only explanation to how the universe works, you have to accept the reality of the spiritual side of life. And the spiritual side of life, basically consider spirituality as non-physical phenomenon. The spirit side of life is the things you can't see, whereas the classical science stuff is like tangible. You can see it, and you can create experiments to prove that that works that way. But the spiritual side of life is so infinite, it's so vast, that it's so hard to explain and understand, because we cannot see the spiritual side of life with our physical eyes. Okay. So to look into this, like, spirituality is basically just really advanced science at the end of the day, because all spirituality is just how the universe works. That's it. And that's what science is too. But science and spirituality over time have become, the elites have polarized it. And how did they polarize it further? They created religion. What is religion? It is a philosophy and a methodology of how the world works. But then it's told through stories and narratives of people and our past and common beliefs. It's the exact same stuff. Religion, science, and spirituality are a trio that is connected. So whenever I talk about spirituality, don't think I'm just talking about advanced Buddhist yoga shit, you know? Like, it's not that. It's a unique and amazing blend of science, religion, and spirituality. So I like to call it spirit science, because it's science of the universe. And when we understand that, we can then not dismiss any religions, because while a lot of people who are like basically hardcore into religion and they take it as gospel, they're limited in a way because they cut themselves off from all other things in life as well. Because by saying that you have the only one right religion, you're basically saying that you are the only right person and everyone else is wrong, which is not the way to live. And when we look at life this way, we know that, hey, there's truth and there's fiction in every part of our reality. So a lot of science is legit and real. A lot of it's bullshit. It really is. A lot of our medical system is built upon foundational truth. A lot of it is bullshit. And a lot of spirituality, things that people teach, a lot of it's legit and real. A lot of it's bullshit. And then religion, same thing. So it's not to say that one or the other is right or wrong. It's about blending all of them together and seeing things with a holistic viewpoint and manner. And in doing so, we can gain all these reference points with an open mind. We don't close ourselves off to anything. So once I started doing this, I was like, all right, game on. Let's dig into spirituality. And then as I did that, I took a bit of a scientific perspective, but to start looking into spirituality, which is like non-physical phenomenon, right? Things you can't see, you have to trust in higher divine source. Now, what that can sound like, it could be, so you know how in religion they refer to the higher being as God?
Yep.
Which is also the same as the creator or source energy, like source, which is basically the energy that resides at the very beginning or the origin, and or the divine. So the divine is another word. So when I use the words God, divine, source energy, spirit, like it's basically all the same thing, because the universe, the foundations of the universe are built on the two common themes that the universe is built on is consciousness and energy. So what is consciousness? Well, consciousness is like the fabric that connects everything together. So when you look into the realms of quantum physics, for example, you'll know that basically everything is wave-like energy. Like everything is energy. There's energy right here. Like while I can't physically grab it in the air, there is energy surrounding me right now. And the energetic vibration of my desk is also pulsating into my body. And my heart and the energetic vibration of my body is creating this pulsating energy out into the world that affects everything else, because everything is quantumly entangled. So if you don't know what I'm talking about here, look up quantum entanglement, search it on YouTube, watch a few videos, and also research quantum physics. So then, tying this all back, when we know that consciousness is merely the underlying fabric of the universe, which is intelligence. So say like, you know, you have a conscience, you have a subconscious and an unconscious. Well, where does the unconscious information come from? It doesn't originate in your brain. Your brain is merely a receiver. Your brain just receives information and processes it. And then you create your reality from the way that you perceive and process the information that you're receiving into your mind and heart. Okay, so the two biggest receivers of information are your heart, which is like spiritual wisdom, and your brain. And your brain is intellectual. It's like knowledge. So basically, you know, when you research and you consume knowledge, that's your brain working. That's your logical understanding of things. That's what a lot of scientists gear themselves towards. They prioritize the intellect and the mind. And when a lot of men, and when you talk to a lot of men or scientists about the heart, they literally don't value the heart. They do not value feelings. They think emotions are inferior to the intellect. And that's why in our modern world, a lot of men view like women as non-intelligent. Like that's just the reality. A lot of them do. And it's flawed, it's biased, it's really wrong, because they think that just because they're smart in the mind, they can articulate things or they can advance things in science, because most men are typically, the reason I'm saying this is because most men are typically driven by the mind, because we've been taught to suppress our feelings and cut ourselves off from the heart. Because if you feel as a man, you're labeled a pussy, you know, like, oh, what a pussy. He's crying. He's showing emotion. Can't do that. But what I've come to learn is that's bullshit. And that's really a limiting construct, because if you look into guys like Einstein, Nikola Tesla, they all talk about this shit, but it's not really publicized. You have to dig deep to find it. They all talk about the infinite intelligence and wisdom of the heart. And all the most leading scientists, engineers, creators, inventors, sportsmen, athletes, they all connect into their heart, because the heart is connected to spiritual energy, spiritual source, the infinite consciousness of all that is. And the heart actually has the ability to receive information from anything. So for example, at the elite and the higher levels of this, if Ella was thinking about something right now, if I had the personal mastery to do so, which I will one day, to basically, it's called telepathy. So if she basically projects a thought, that thought isn't contained within her mind. It then gets sent up to the infinite sea of quantum intelligence and consciousness, which we all have connection to, because our mind does not remember everything that we think and remember every experience. What it does when we experience and when we learn and when we have thoughts, it sends it up into the infinite sea of consciousness. So you can look at another reference point that you could research is called the Akashic Records. This is like,
can you spell that?
AKASHIC. I might be a little bit off with the spelling, but you'll be, with that spelling, you'll be able to find it. So what happens is, like a library, you know, when someone writes a book, that book isn't stored in their mind. It gets stored in a library of books. The same thing happens on the quantum realm, or the quantum sea of all that is. So when you have a thought, it's like writing a book, but you're storing it in the quantum, which is basically a library that you cannot see. And it stores the address for that information, because in the quantum realm, there is no such thing as time. Time does not exist. Time is a four-dimensional reality. We currently live in the three-dimensional reality where we're bound by space and time. But in the fourth dimension, time exists. But beyond that, in the fifth, sixth, seventh, and up to 12 dimensions of reality, time no longer exists, which means that you can access everything from the past, present, and future, because there is no past, present, or future. There only is what is. So when we understand that, and this is a really big, if you haven't heard this before, there's a really hard thing to grasp your mind around in the beginning, but I'm just planting the seed and it will manifest for you over time, okay? So don't feel like you have to, all I'm trying to do is just plant different reference points right now that you can then take, and don't worry about mastering everything I say right now. Take what resonates. Like if I say one thing and you're like, I'm actually interested in that, just take that one bite and cultivate your interest in it, you know, cultivate your curiosity and turn it into interest and passion by just researching and allowing yourself to, you know, start researching all these different reference points. So with everyone listening right now, just kind of acknowledge just one thing that resonates with you and take that. You don't have to get everything I'm saying right now. So then when we know that like consciousness is the fabric of the universe, that basically my underlying principle there is that all information is available to us. So what we can do is, knowing that all information is available to us in the quantum realm, in the quantum sea, then the way we access that is not through the mind. It's through the heart, because the heart is what connects us to all that is. The heart is the gateway to the quantum realm. Why? Because the heart is the source of emotion, right? Like the heart is when you feel feelings of like love, gratitude, and forgiveness. That's not coming from your mind. Those emotions reside and originate from your heart. And they are the highest level emotions that you can feel and receive. So when we tune our heart into the feelings of unconditional love for all that is in ourself. So basically what this means in the pathway to mastery, when we are feeling the lower level emotions of fear, guilt, shame, they are rooted in they're basically originated in our root chakra. So then when we process through these and transmute them, and basically through the process of alchemy, transmute fear, guilt, shame, and anger into love, we master our emotions. And in mastering our emotions, we raise our energetic vibrational frequency, because the other fabric and foundation of the universe is energy. So we've got consciousness and energy, and consciousness travels through energy. And consciousness basically holds information of all that is. And information travels through light, right? So when you emit light, that's information. So depending on the energetic vibration of something, the energetic vibration determines the quality of information that you will be able to receive, because like attracts like, and like frequencies attract like frequencies, and every emotion has a frequency. So if you are residing in emotions of fear, guilt, and shame, then that is a really low and dense energy. What type of energy? Darkness. Because darkness basically means that there is no light, which means that there is no consciousness, or it's like a lower level of consciousness. So think of associate the lower level emotions, fear, guilt, shame, with darkness. It doesn't mean that there's any right or wrong. There's no wrong in the darkness. But what our job is to do is to channel light, which is basically higher vibrational energy, into the darkness to illuminate it. And when we do that, we do it by mastering our emotions and embodying the feelings of love, forgiveness, and peace and joy, and doing what you're here to do, like connecting with your purpose in life. Because when you do that, you come alive. You feel great, because the emotion of love feels amazing. The emotion of fear isn't really that great, right? So what this does is it raises our energetic vibration to the highest state. Now, consider yourself in your current life right now. I might use myself as an example to not cast any judgment on anyone, but remember, there is no right or wrong. So right now, back a couple of years ago, I would judge people more. I would feel guilt for things I've done in the past. I would feel shame for things I've done. I would think that I was flawed. I would be really shameful for, the bad things that we do. But remember, you are amazing as you are. And despite your fuck ups, it doesn't dictate who you can become in the now moment. We can forgive ourselves. And in the process of taking our current self, where we're still feeling these emotions on a frequent basis, fear, guilt, shame, judgment, all those things. And when we begin to just forgive ourselves, we get rid of the lowest vibrational emotions of guilt and shame, because that's what keeps us in a lower density. It keeps us in the darkness, because the darkness feeds off those energies. But when we just don't accept that, when it's like, hey, yeah, I've fucked up in life and some shit's happened to me as well, and I'm just going to let go of it, because I know that I am more and I'm infinitely powerful, and that I, at my core essence, at the soul level, I am unconditional love. So when we choose to forgive ourselves, when we choose to forgive others, we then continue to rise in our vibration, because now, instead of never loving or blocking ourselves off from love, we're choosing in that moment to receive love and light into our body. And when we do that, we begin to learn how that feels. And when we begin to learn how that feels, we can embody that state more. Because you know how a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people in this space will tell you to do meditation and tell you to like feel the feeling of gratitude when you're doing it, because they typically, basically the length that they will go to is tell you that, oh, by feeling gratitude, you'll feel better. You'll be able to attract things into your life better. Well, why? Because gratitude and love are the highest vibrational energies. And when we vibrate energetically at a higher level, we can then attract, like we collapse time, because what we're doing is we're basically now transmuting the lower level emotions into the highest vibrational frequency emotions, which means that we literally vibrate more at a higher frequency, which means that when we transcend and rise and vibrate, start vibrating at a higher frequency, we attract things at the same frequency. Which is why when we're feeling low, when we're feeling depressed, when we're feeling fearful, when we're acting out of, when we're making decisions based on our fear complex of what we don't want, we never attract what we want, because we're not vibrating at the energetic level to receive the amazing gifts that we actually desire. So as we begin to master ourselves and hold this higher energetic vibration for more percentage of the time in our daily life, we get closer and closer towards mastery. Because mastery is really being able to basically acknowledge the lower level emotions, not attach to them when they come in, know that they don't define us as a person. We just allow them to flow. We transmute them to the higher ones and choose to embody all of the most empowering emotions that exist. And when we do that, we master and raise our energy. And in doing so, because consciousness and energy are entangled, they're both correlated. The greater energetic frequency we hold, we raise our consciousness. When we raise our consciousness, what happens? We allow more information to come into our body and mind. And when we allow more information to come into our body and mind, we become way more intelligent, because we're more aware and we've allowed more information to download into our body, which means we know more shit. We know, and we can access parts of information from the quantum sea, things that we've never been taught, things that sound crazy to other people. When you raise your energetic vibration, you can start to connect to higher realms of consciousness, aliens and shit, you know, like, because we can't, there are aliens we can see, but there's also trillions of aliens and other entities and beings that we can't see, because they have so much light that, like, they are basically vibrating at a spectrum of light that we can't even see, because light is a spectrum, right? And we only have a very limited perception of what we can see based on the spectrum of light that comes into our physical plane. But when we enhance our consciousness, we can now start receiving downloads and information from shit and beings we cannot see, which is incredible. So then this is the shit that Nikola Tesla and Einstein did to invent things and theories. Like, this is where all the amazing inventions of the world come from. The intellectual mind does not create them out of nowhere. This is why I am obsessed about the quantum realm and co-creating with the universe, because we are not individually a creator. We are co-creating with all other beings, with the universe itself. And our level of creations and inventions are going to be determined by our level of vibrational energetic frequency and our level of consciousness. The greater our energetic vibration, the greater our consciousness, the more we can create on demand whatever we want, the more we can manipulate our three-dimensional reality. Now, obviously, I cannot tangibly prove this to you until I pull this off and master it myself, you know? So just because, but I want to be clear and transparent with you with the journey that I'm on too. Like, don't view me as the fucking guru. Know that I'm merely on the same journey as you. I'm actively practicing this stuff each and every day, and I will be genuine and authentic and tell you when I achieve these things and when I start communicating with aliens and stuff, because that's only fair. I'm not going to pretend that I have open dialogue with them. Like I definitely receive downloads and I definitely hear their frequencies, but I can't interpret them. And I just want to make that clear because there's other people on this earth that can do that. But there's also a lot of bullshitters. So you've got to be careful, and I'll always be transparent with you along this journey because it's really important to practice discernment. And the more authentic and just honest I can be about my journey, then it kind of just ensures that like we keep trust with a lot of the stuff that we're saying. And I'll always be raw and honest in that way, because when we talk about this stuff, it's easy, very easy to get caught up in it all. And the more I talk about it, the more skeptical you're going to probably be, because it's going to sound fucking nuts. And I want you to know that that's normal. When I started getting into this too, I thought it was fucking nuts. And then I thought I was losing my mind for the past 2 years, but that's okay, because just because we're receiving new information about how our reality and how our world works doesn't dismiss that it's not real. We just have to be okay with where we are. And we have to be okay with the fact that as we continue to progress in life, we're going to learn more things. And the level of mastery in which we can get to and our level of understanding of Earth, the universe, and how it works is infinite. And we're only just scratching the surface of what we know. Like right now, we might have a bit of understanding about how the Earth works, right? And how physics works at a fundamental level. But just because that's our current understanding doesn't dismiss the greater realities of higher levels of consciousness and higher realms and aliens and things like this. It just means that we can't interpret the information yet. And we haven't grasped that gravity because no one's taught us. And the more we get into this, when you master this shit, this is why I'm so heavy on spirituality, because when you master these fundamental laws and understandings of the universe, you transcend everyone else. So take two people, player A, who's trying to start a business and grow a business, player B, who's trying to start and grow a business. Player A has a limited view of the world, is very hesitant to even tap into spirituality or acknowledge the advancements in science, and keeps a limited view and just wants to talk about business. Take player B, who is open to everything, has an open mind, is willing to learn and continue to break their mind to expand their level of awareness and consciousness for how they work, for how Earth works, for how the galaxy works, for how the universe works. When you do that, you literally gain superpowers over player A because player A is making decisions based off a limited amount of information. But player B is playing a whole different ballgame. The more wisdom you have, the more awareness you have of how our reality works, you literally gain the ability to create whatever you want in life. And this is what UnitedMind is all about. This is what Quantum Coach is all about. This is what this program is. And I'm not going to pretend like I've mastered it, but there is a better way than what we've been operating so far. There is, and I know it to be true. And the more we all tap into this, it's the harder path. It is the difficult path to walk in life. It's not easy, but if you're here, I know you're up for the challenge, because life is too short to not have a crack, you know? Like, why not? And we are all here for a reason. And it's our job to figure out why that is. Because once we connect to our reason for being here and we continue to just patiently progress on this journey of enhancing our energy and consciousness, things will happen at the right time, because the universe will be co-creating with the universe. And divine intervention and time will happen for us, and we will receive the right information at the right time. Kind of like Nikola Tesla. He created the most amazing inventions in the entire world, ever. He's the greatest scientist who have ever lived. And the only way he did that was this shit right here, this stuff that I'm talking about. But in his time, people labeled him as crazy. But we have to stop doing that. We have to stop being resistant towards these things. And I know you guys are open, but the more open we are, the more we allow ourselves to receive information, things that we have never thought of before, because we don't know what we don't know. And once we get on the path, by taking this approach in life, we literally lead the world into a better place. Because by accepting this reality of like this greater reality of how things work, you actually fall in love with life, because this is the real shit. This is the real stuff of why we're here. This is what we're here to learn and master. And when we do so, we give permission to others to do so as well. Because when we tap into the depths, this stuff connects us to our deepest purpose and mission of why we're here. And it's a much better and more fulfilling life to live than someone who just wants to neglect the meaning of life and wants to just live and work their 9 to fucking 5. And when we do it, we give permission to others to follow the example. And when we do it and lead, and more people start adopting this approach to life, we literally heal the entire planet. We end pain and suffering, because with greater conscious awareness, pain does not reside. Because we master our emotions, we master our mind. And when we all collectively do this, we will literally change the future of the planet and will evolve to higher realms. And everyone here on this call, our generation, this is what we're here to do. This is the change that we're here to make in the world. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. It's like, you've got to take the responsibility to find what your unique purpose is, because you can fulfill your role and your purpose in any way. The garbage man can fulfill his deepest purpose, because it's not necessarily in what we do, it's how we do it. Because the garbage man, in each and every interaction, each bin he picks up, when he sees people on the street, he can either admit joy, happiness, excitement, and love to everyone he interacts with in every moment, and transfer his energy of love and abundance onto others, because energy is transferable, or he can walk around mopey and hating his fucking life. But this is why it's also important to match our careers and our pursuit with doing what we love. Because the more time we spend doing what we love, we naturally raise our energetic vibration. We work with our biology. We work with our deepest essence and purpose of why we're here. And when we do that, we become alive.
That was a lot, Rhett.
Did it resonate?
Good. No, it did.
You've got to give me feedback on where you're at as well, so I can accommodate and master my explanations of things too.
Yeah, no, it's a lot, but I understand. I actually managed to connect a lot of the dots on that and follow along, because this is all completely new to me, but I actually managed to follow along with that.
And make sure after this, just don't worry about intellectually getting it all. It doesn't work like that. You've just got to more so, all I've done here is I've just channeled light into your mind and body. And that light needs to take time to process and integrate into your body. That's what learning is, because you don't have to intellectually get something to actually enhance your wisdom. Because just by merely being here and having this conversation and hearing these words, they're activating parts of yourself within your DNA and your biology, which is triggering many awakenings and planting many seeds that you will then continue to water over time. Because we can't grasp all this shit in fucking one day. It's taken me a couple of years to get to this point. It's taken my whole life. But the start of my spiritual journey, it's taken a couple of years to fully integrate it all. But my purpose is to help others kind of have connection and not feel isolated when going through this. Because when you do it alone, it's lonely and you feel nuts, you feel crazy. And that's just the reality. But the more you're around people who also kind of get this stuff, you'll be able to do it quicker and more steadily. It probably won't rattle you as much, because you won't think you're nuts. There's other people who think these ways. And honestly, there's hundreds of thousands of people out there waking up to this stuff, but we are the front runners. That's just the reality. There's no denying that. because this stuff is the hardest stuff to understand. That's why not many people are willing to pave this path. But when we continue to pursue this stuff in the spiritual side of life and we integrate it into business, you bring superpowers into your business. This is the fundamentals of high performance and achievement. This transcends anything else that is in the market of what is being taught in regards to business and performance. Because when we have higher levels of consciousness and energy, we can achieve whatever we want, like fucking want to. Business becomes easy because we're playing on a different level. It's like we're playing on level 10 with people still on level 2. And then it's not about the competition though, but like, I want to frame it that way to show you that, hey, if you want to grow your business, this is the way to do it. Like, this is the harder way to do it short term. But when you get these foundations right, it will transcend you to allow you to become world-class at whatever you choose to do in your life. And you will dream bigger, you will pursue bigger things because you're capable and you know you are. So I know this stuff, like this got pretty long-winded, and I know it's tough. I know it's a lot, but like, just exercise patience and stick with this stuff.
I get what you were saying about like planting the seeds though.
That's all I'm here to do. Like, I'm not here to convince you of anything. It's like, all I aim to do is plant multiple seeds from different angles and different ways of explaining things that then just continue to activate. And then by continuing to develop your own curiosity, like what I said at the beginning, take one thing that you're interested in from what I just mentioned, one terminology, and go study.
Yeah, the
Akashic
Records. That's what I got it spelling right.
That's the universal library of all information.
Yeah, that's what I stored it in my head as. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You came from a viewpoint that I can relate to because I'm interested in science, so it wasn't so.
And that's where it all started for me too. Yeah. And then I started questioning all the scientists who developed their theories. And when you question everything, because a lot of people in our modern world, you know, they see someone with a lab coat on, they see someone with a doctorate degree, they see someone as a scientist like Albert Einstein, and they just assume, they give all their power to that authority and they just assume they're right. But look how much damage that does. It's like, all right, so instead of trying to master and understand our own health, we'll just go to the doctor with a lab coat who's a fucking expert at prescribing pills. Like, what? 0 sense. And then we've got to understand that, hey, well, I'm not bashing doctors or scientists or any of these people because there's nuance, right? And there's a lot of these experts and professionals that really do have genuine intent and they truly care and they do fucking amazing jobs. But that, just because they have good intent doesn't mean I'm not going to question where they got their knowledge from and what they believe. Like, you guys question the fuck out of me too. Like, don't just assume anything. Always use your own discernment. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. But you practice this with everything as well. Your business mentors, coaches, doctors, scientists, be like, well, what if they are wrong? And that is the question that very few people are willing to ask. The more you ask it, you'll just make your way up to genius status in the world because you'll start to be able to master your own ability to think and question everything. And it's the harder path because by questioning everything, it creates so much uncertainty in your life. But as Einstein said, basically genius is the ability to hold two opposing opinions in your mind at one time while still being able to function and operate. So this is the paradox of spiritual development. When you're questioning everything on the spiritual side and advancing your knowledge to extremes, basically what you're doing is creating a paradigm and a paradox that is questioning everything that you currently believe, which uproots your entire foundation for your entire life. So that's why it's really important to get grounded in your personal truth of what you know to be true, like basically absolutely true. And for me, those like foundational truths are the foundation of consciousness, foundation of energy, and also the foundation that I am here to master myself and embody unconditional love for myself and everything else and all beings. And just by operating on that simplicity or that simple foundation, it creates the operating system for the way I approach life. So when I navigate anything, it's like, all right, well, my default, raise my consciousness, raise my energy, focus on mastering myself. So when everything's going to shit, I just focus on me and what I can control. And then I focus also on whenever I feel negative emotions, I just try and transmute it to love. And then that, for me, allows me to operate from a grounded place where I now am able to basically go into business and deal with the uncertainties and the chaos that business brings, but approach it with more of a spiritual essence, which allows me to just continue to rise above the challenges that I face. And then the more I master it, the more I will be able to master the business realm as well and enhance my performance. They're very in sync. So I hope that gives you a couple of like different perspectives on like how to just navigate life and business as well. What I would like to do, just based on that explanation, like just quickly, I want to touch base with everyone and just see like one takeaway that you actually got from that, because it helps me enhance my ability to teach by knowing what you take away from each different thing that I say. So Ella, why don't you chime in?
I really liked the idea that you said that, you know, like scientists who have came up with like these groundbreaking ideas, that it's not necessarily from the mind, that it's from access from a different realm. Because I do believe that like there's thought forms, but I never thought of it like that way. That really fascinated me the most, that you can like tap into that realm at any time and get the downloads, the answers you want, and that there is beings that can help you do that.
I'll give you a tip on how to do it. So it's all about basically uniting the mind with the heart, right? So because a lot of men prioritize the intellect and the mind, we in turn cut ourselves off from feeling in the heart. And women, a lot of the time, their default is the feminine side, which is they are overly dominant on their feeling, but they disconnect from their intellect. So the goal is the yin and yang of life, is to find the balance between the two and unite the two, because one alone, you're operating at 50% capacity at best. But when you unite the two superpowers of your heart and mind together, oh my God, you unlock an infinite amount of ability within yourself. So the way to do it is the frequency that aligns the heart and the mind is, number one, start to connect with your heart by embodying and feeling love. So when I want to do it, my default go-to, because the person that I just like love more than anything in the world is my sister, Savannah. And whenever I think of her, like my heart just goes boof. So when I want to get into that state, I think of her and visualize that to embody it. And then it's all about syncing with your breath. So like channeling and breathing to take your mind and focus it on your heart. And the frequency that does this is the gamma wave frequency. So if you want to also enhance your ability to do it, this is the ultimate focus and learning state to be in as well. So if you want to enhance your learning and enhance your capacity to learn really quickly, if you want to generate amazing creative ideas, if you want to be able to focus in work, then you need to basically get yourself into the gamma wave frequency. Now, you can also do this by blending the feeling in your heart with like using binaural beats and putting your headphones on and looking up like YouTube sources with gamma wave frequencies and allowing them to flow through your mind, because that sound frequency also puts your mind into that default state of gamma wave operation. So there are just a couple of tricks that you can use to enhance your own personal ability. And that then creates the right optimal state to start being open and operating from a place of abundance, which gives you greater ability to access greater information.
That's incredible.
Also, basically the other two times when this happens is right when you're about to fall asleep. So, you know, when you're about to fall asleep and you'll have ideas come into your mind, but then you'll accidentally fall asleep and you don't like write the ideas down and stuff.
Yeah.
If you haven't been aware of it, now that I've said it, you'll become aware when you're laying in bed at night and it's like, well, that's an interesting idea. But then you need to catch it because you'll forget it. because that is like your creative mind at work, accessing like honestly higher realms. And the more you train yourself to capture those ideas and train that ability, you'll start to come up with some really cool stuff. Like my best inventive ideas usually when I am not in my thinking mind, because when I'm in a hard, like focused thinking mind, I'm basically intellectually dominant, which takes me out of my heart, which blocks me off. I'm unable to get really creative. But when I want to access enhanced creativity, then I shut down my prefrontal cortex. And I can do that sometimes by like smoking weed and just like brainstorming on the whiteboard. Or when I'm about to fall asleep, I'll just like be sitting there presently aware, and I catch myself right before I nod off and if any ideas come up, I'll write them down. Same thing goes when you just start to wake up in the morning, before you're fully consciously aware, in that kind of like lucid dream state. That's where you also have, that's like the gap where you have access and potential to access amazing and really like higher realms of information. So before you go to bed, set the intention of what you want to receive. Ask a question and ask that it be answered, because the higher spiritual beings will hear it and be like, if you're ready to receive it, they'll just go like in your dream or in that like transitory state, they'll plonk it in your mind. That's how I came up with the branding for UnitedMind. It didn't come from me. I was like in a lucid state and it just went blonk. And I was like, holy fuck, there's the business. And these things happen more and more as you get used to it and as you train that ability within yourself. So start keeping a notepad beside your bed. All the top geniuses and entrepreneurs always did this. They would never go anywhere without a notepad, because it's when you're in your day-to-day, like when you get into a trance or a lucid state, that's when, like, for example, in the shower, idea, bang, or right before bed, idea, bang. But if you don't have the conscious ability to capture it, like you're losing out on so much high quality of intelligence. So do that. All like Einstein and Tesla did this all the time. Basically what Tesla did, he would honestly just spend a lot of his time in thinking time. And at his desk, he basically didn't sleep. And he would just use that sleep or like tiredness state. He would hold a ball of marbles in his hand. And when he would like hold his hand over the chair. And as soon as he nodded off, he had a plate underneath him. So as soon as he was about to nod off and basically fall into the gap, to catch himself and catch the ideas, before he would nod off to sleep, he would set the intention and ask the question of what information he wanted to receive. As soon as he fell asleep, his hand would go limp, the marbles would drop out on the plate and go bang, wake him up, and then he'd remember what ideas came to him. And that's how he came up with so much of his amazing inventions. And the same thing goes with Einstein. Like if you look back into his archives and, you know, kind of biographies about him, he was always caught asleep in his office and like just sort of doing nothing. And people were like, does this guy ever fucking work? But it's like, you know, you can either be taking action on what you currently know, or you can also take some time and space to access genius level ideas and practice this skill set to get better ideas, which will, it's like, this is the quantum theory of exponential growth. The higher quality of the idea that comes into your mind, you will allow yourself and expose yourself to the ability for exponential growth. But when we just stay bound and limited on our current level of understanding in the world, it's just linear progression, because we're like, all right, well, I currently know this, so I have to do this, then this, then this to achieve that. But it's backwards. The way to accelerate beyond our wildest dreams is to enhance our level of intelligence and consciousness. And when we are able to generate higher level ideas and like envision bigger things, then we're playing a different ballgame. Because, you know, if you want to achieve excellence with what you're currently doing, it takes the same amount of effort to do that than it is to land a rocket on the moon. It takes the same amount of effort, but it's all about your ability to enhance your consciousness to be able to solve bigger problems and like be able to operate in a different way with a different perspective, because those with the biggest perspectives in life basically run the teams that do the work. So, but it's down to what you personally want to do and how you want to design your life. just because I say this is my way of operating doesn't mean it's right for you. And there's no right or wrong with any of it. You've got to find what makes you come alive. You've got to find the way that you like to operate and pursue that with like a relentless approach.